Hello again, everyone, and welcome to A Shortstop with a Shortstop. You know what's going to happen tonight? The World Series starts. It's an exciting time, and I can't wait. You've got the Los Angeles Dodgers going against the New York Yankees, and they've probably been playing each other in the World Series. I think this will be either the 12th or the 13th time. And they've always been a good series. And I think both teams match up real well with each other this year. So it'll probably go 7 games, I'm saying. And unfortunately, as much as I hate the Dodgers, I picked them to win. I just wanted B.J. Clark to know that. But you have the Dodgers with Johnnie. You got Mookie Betts. You got Freddie Freeman, Max Muncy. Those players are just great. And then with the Yankees, you've got Aaron Judge, Garcia Stanton, Juan Soto, Anthony Rizzo. You've got guys there that in years, as several years go by, a lot of these guys are going to be in the Hall of Fame. And it should be a very, very exciting time. These guys are going to make memories. They're going to make some memories that are going to last them for a lifetime playing in this World Series. And I want to talk to a little bit about some memories that some people made in the Bible. And Noah, we look at him, and he was found favor in God's eyes, and God had told him to build an ark, that he was going to destroy the world with water. He was going to create a flood, and it was going to destroy the whole world. But Noah preached for 120 years. It took him 100 years to build the ark. But his preaching didn't win anybody's soul to get into the ark, but it did save his family. His 3 sons, their 3 wives, and his wife. And if we look in Genesis chapter 7, verses 11 through 13, it says, in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month of the 17th day of that month, on that same day, all the fountains of the great deep burst upon, and the floodgates of the sky were open. The rain fell upon the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. So they got onto the ark, and Noah had preached to his family. And in verse 24, it tells us that the water prevailed on the earth for 150 days. But he had preached for 120 years. But in my eyes, he was the GOAT at that time. He was the greatest of all time. Because what he saved his family. Each and every single one of you listeners out there, including myself, we have family that may be lost at this time. Are we preaching to them? Are we willing to preach 120 years or however long our life will be up on this earth to try to save our families that we know that are not New Testament Christians? Well, that's exactly what Noah did. And he won the World Series for his family because he saved them. Today, to be in a saved condition instead of the ark, we need to be in the church. And we need to preach that to our family, to our friends, and to our neighbors, to everybody that we can. In Matthew chapter 7 and verse 20, it says, God says you will know them by their fruits. If a Christian is trying to produce another Christian, then we're going to go out and preach. We're going to produce some fruit, and we're going to do it to the best that we can. Sometimes we're going to be turned down, but yet Noah kept preaching, and he saved his family, and he won the World Series. Then in Genesis chapter 37, it talks about Joseph. And in verse 23 through 28, so it came about when Joseph reached his brothers, and they had stripped him of his tunic, and his very colored tunic that was on him, they took him and threw him in a deep pit. Now the pit was empty, without any water in it. And they came and sat down to a meal, and they raised up their eyes and looked. Behold, a caravan of Ishmaelites was coming from Gilead, with their camels bearing aromatic gum and balm and myrrh. on their way to bring them down to Egypt. And Judah said to his brothers, "What profiteth us to kill our brother and to cover up his blood? Come on and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites and not lay our hands on him, for he is our brother, our own flesh." And his brothers listened to him. Joseph's brothers sold him to a band of people that were Ishmaelites, and they ended up buying him for 20 pieces of silver. And he went on and was bought by a man by the name of Potiphar. And Potiphar ended up making him the second in command of his house. He was over everything except for Potiphar's wife. And Potiphar's wife lied on Joseph. She was trying to lie with him, but he wouldn't do it. And she told her husband, when Joseph left his coat there, that Joseph had come in and tried to lie with her. And Potiphar ended up putting Joseph in jail. And there was a butler and a cook there that Joseph interpreted some dreams for. And one of them got killed, and one of them went on back to serve the king, or Pharaoh. And eventually, Joseph was able to interpret a dream for Pharaoh. And it was about a famine that was getting ready to come. There was going to be 7 years of good, and then there was going to be 7 years of famine. And Pharaoh ended up making Joseph second in command of all of Egypt. And he ended up storing the grain for 7 years, that they had the good, and so that they were able to have food during the 7 years of famine. But yet Joseph's brothers came to him not knowing exactly who he was. But he ended up giving them food and allowing them to be able to feed their family. But they came back again. And Joseph finally identified himself to them. And he told them not to be sad or not to worry, because it was God's will that Joseph to be there, because it helped to save all of, not only Joseph's family, but all of his brothers and all of the Jewish nation, because they stayed in Egypt for like 400 years. And eventually they were led out by Moses. But Joseph preached to his family. Again, I want to tell everybody, we've all got family that needs to be preached to. But Joseph at that time was the GOAT. He was the greatest of all time. So many things came his way that he could have just quit, but he didn't. He stuck with it, he stuck with God, and he did what God wanted him to do. And yet he ended up saving his family. He ended up helping them to be able to eat, be able to understand that God's will was done, and that was what God wanted to be done. And what better thing can we do than to preach to our family, our friends, our neighbors? And I'm going to do it as long as I live. And I'm going to give you all the plan of salvation. Again, I'm going to do it as long as this podcast will let me do it. We need to hear, believe, repent, confess, and be baptized and come into the contact with the blood of Christ in order to enter the ark, or the church. In Acts chapter 2 and verse 47, when people completed the gospel plan of salvation, they were added to the church. I want you to win the World Series. I want to win the World Series. And I hope the Dodgers don't. But thank you again for being with a shortstop.